Imagine this. You spend your whole life trying to fit into a mold. You adjust your voice to sound more agreeable, dress a certain way to be accepted, take jobs you don't love just to seem successful, and you call this life. But what if all of this effort is the very thing keeping you from truly living? Let me ask you a hard question. How much of your stress comes from trying to meet expectations that were never even yours? We live in a world obsessed with validation. The right look, the right words, the right level of politeness. We fear being judged, rejected, misunderstood. So we shrink. We mold. We become actors in someone else's play. But what if I told you that letting go, truly letting go, isn't weakness but power? Centuries ago, French philosopher Michel de Montaigne saw through this illusion. He realized that most people live their entire lives reacting to external opinions, chasing artificial success, and fearing rejection. And he asked a revolutionary question. What happens if you simply stop caring? Not in the sense of apathy, not indifference, but in the sense of detachment, of no longer allowing others' expectations to define you. Let me ask you, have you ever said yes just to avoid judgment, even when everything in you wanted to say no? Have you ever edited yourself, quieted your voice, or stayed silent just to be liked? Montaigne believed that the more we care about pleasing others, the further we drift from ourselves. We think that being liked means we are safe. But in truth, it's often the first step to losing who we are. This is the great paradox of caring too much. The harder you try to prove your worth, the more you feel disconnected. The more you strive to be accepted, the more invisible you become. Now pause here for a moment. What are the things you constantly worry about? Your appearance, your reputation, the opinions of people who barely know you? How many of these things actually belong to you? And how many are inherited fears from society, family, or past wounds? This is where Montaigne's genius shines through. He didn't tell people to be reckless or careless. He told them to be free. He said, stop chasing perfection. It doesn't exist. Stop fearing failure. It teaches you more than success. Stop performing. The real you is more than enough. And here's the turning point. When you detach from external expectations, your energy returns to you. You stop wasting emotional fuel on approval. You stop obsessing over what others might think. And for the first time, you begin to breathe. Because true confidence doesn't come from control. It comes from release. The greatest thing in the world, Montaigne wrote, is to know how to belong to oneself. So let me ask you now, what have you been doing just to be accepted? What part of yourself have you silenced just to fit in? Who are you when no one is watching? Share your reflection in the comments. Your story might help someone else unlearn a mask they've been wearing too long. And here's what's wild. When you stop trying to be impressive, you become magnetic. People trust what's real. They are drawn to those who are unapologetically authentic. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to explain yourself to be valid. You simply have to be present in your own life. In the next part, we'll explore how Montaigne's philosophy frees you from the invisible prison of overthinking, social pressure, and self-doubt, and how not caring can be the most transformative choice you ever make. But for now, sit with this. What would your life look like if you stopped caring about the wrong things, just for one day? 尝试品4. What happens when you finally let go? Now that you've begun to question why you've been carrying so much weight, let's go deeper. Let's imagine you wake up tomorrow and suddenly stop caring about the things that used to haunt you. The social media likes, the gossip, the impossible standards, the constant comparisons. What happens next? Most people assume they'll become careless, lazy, or disconnected. But that's not what happens. When you stop clinging to expectations, you don't become hollow. You become real. You begin to engage with the world in a way that is grounded, calm, and remarkably powerful. Michel de Montaigne believed that true strength lies not in control but in surrender. He observed that many of our worst habits, people-pleasing, perfectionism, chronic stress, are rooted in a fear of being misunderstood or unloved. But what if being misunderstood isn't a threat, but a freedom? Take a second and ask yourself, how often have you said yes when you meant no? How many times have you reshaped yourself just to avoid conflict, discomfort, or rejection? And what did that really cost you? When you let go of the fear of disapproval, you begin to live with intention. Your choices become clearer, Your voice, stronger. Your mind, quieter. The clutter of external noise fades, and for the first time, you can actually hear yourself think. Now, this isn't easy. We live in a world that rewards performance, not authenticity. But Montaigne knew something vital. The performance never ends until you decide to walk off stage. There's an unexpected peace that comes with admitting, I don't know, I made a mistake, or I don't have to prove anything to you. These aren't signs of weakness. They are signs of inner stability. The greatest paradox? When you let go of needing validation, you often receive more of it. Why? Because people trust what's real. Authenticity, like gravity, pulls others toward it. Think of someone you admire. Are they perfect? Probably not. But they're likely real. They're comfortable in their skin. They don't chase applause. They attract it. So what does this look like in practice? Let's say you're in a meeting and someone questions your idea. You might spiral into self-doubt. But now, you listen. You respond without defensiveness. You hold your ground without needing approval. And just like that, you command more respect. Or you post something online that feels honest but risky. Before, you'd obsess over comments. Now, you post and let go. The feedback, good or bad, no longer defines your worth. This is the art of living unburdened. Pause and reflect. What in your life are you still trying to control? What fears keep you performing instead of living? Drop one of them, just one, and watch what shifts. Watch. 尝试拼四. Letting go creates deeper connections. Here's the part that surprises most people. Letting go doesn't lead to loneliness. It leads to deeper, more meaningful connections. Think about it. When you're constantly trying to impress others, your relationships become performance-based. You're not connecting as yourself. You're connecting as a version of you crafted for approval. It's exhausting. And worse, it's hollow. Montaigne noticed that people who are always trying to be liked often lose themselves. They give and give, hoping to be accepted, only to feel emptier in return. But the ones who live unapologetically, who say, "This is who I am," without fear, tend to attract the most genuine respect and love. This is the paradox of detachment. When you stop needing others to like you, they often like you more. Not because you've manipulated them, but because you're free. And freedom is magnetic. Ask yourself this. Have you ever lost yourself trying to please someone? Have you silenced your needs, your boundaries, just to avoid rocking the boat? Real connection doesn't come from compromise, it comes from presence. When you let go of the urge to control how others see you, you show up more fully. You listen without waiting to speak. You love without strings. You exist without needing to dominate or disappear. And that's where real intimacy begins. Now, this doesn't mean becoming emotionally distant. Letting go doesn't mean detaching from love, friendship, or compassion. It means detaching from control, from neediness, from fear. Montaigne believed that the healthiest relationships are rooted in acceptance, not possession. You don't need to fix, change, or control the people you care about. You simply let them be. And when people feel free around you, they trust you more. Letting go also shifts how you handle rejection. Instead of internalizing it as failure, you recognize it as alignment. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life, and that's okay. You stop chasing people who aren't aligned with your values. You stop begging for crumbs of attention. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces never meant for you. And in doing so, you create room for the right people to enter. Imagine this. You show up as your full, authentic self. Flawed, imperfect, but real. And instead of trying to be enough for others, you trust that the right people will meet you where you are. And they do. It's no longer about proving your worth. It's about embodying it. Now let's take this further. Montaigne didn't just talk about relationships. He explored the spiritual side of letting go. And he saw detachment not as a weakness, but as a path to peace. When you detach from outcomes, whether in love, work, or personal goals, you begin to feel lighter. Why? Because your happiness is no longer tied to external events. You do your best. You act with integrity. And then, you release the result. This kind of detachment leads to a quiet confidence. A confidence that isn't shaken by success or failure, praise or criticism. It's the kind of confidence that draws people in, not with noise but with stillness. Pause and reflect again. What if the reason you're not connecting more deeply is because you're holding too tightly? What would happen if you let go, not of people, but of expectations? 尝试品4. Letting go unlocks true power. So here we are, at the final piece of Montaigne's philosophy, a truth so simple it often gets overlooked. The moment you stop trying to control life, life starts working with you. Think about it. How much time have you spent trying to plan every step? How often do you replay conversations, obsess over small mistakes, or fear what hasn't even happened yet? Montaigne believed that real strength comes not from control but from surrender. Not from tightening your grip, but from knowing when to release it. He saw life as a dance, not a battle. A rhythm to move with, not a war to win. And when you understand this, everything changes. You stop trying to predict every outcome. You stop measuring success by perfection. You stop defining yourself by external standards. You begin to flow. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that the best moments in life often happen unexpectedly? The deepest friendships, the biggest breakthroughs, the most beautiful love stories. Do they come from rigid plans or from openness? Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving space for things to unfold naturally. It means doing your best and then trusting life to meet you halfway. Most people cling to certainty because they fear chaos. But what Montaigne discovered is this. Peace isn't found in control, it's found in trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your values. Trust in the present moment. When you live this way, your energy shifts. You stop leaking power through anxiety, second-guessing, and people-pleasing. You become grounded, calm, centered. And guess what? That's when things start aligning. You meet people who truly resonate with you. You find opportunities that feel effortless. You make decisions without overthinking. You create, not from fear, but from flow. And this is the final paradox Montaigne offers us. When you stop needing life to go a certain way, it often goes better than you imagined. Pause again and reflect. What are you gripping onto too tightly right now? Is it a relationship that no longer serves you? An expectation of success? A fear of failure? What would happen if you simply let go? Maybe you'd fall. Or maybe you'd fly. Montaigne invites us to experiment with life, to take the pressure off, to approach challenges like curious observers, not desperate controllers. Imagine waking up tomorrow and saying, I no longer need to prove anything. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to trust. That's not weakness, that's power, that's maturity, that's wisdom. So as we close this journey, let Montaigne's voice echo in your heart. You are not here to control everything. You are here to experience, to grow, to be. Let go of what weighs you down, and you'll discover you were never meant to carry it anyway.